Welcome back to the History Shelf BookTube. I am your host, Peg. It's been a while since my last video. You thought you got rid of me, right? Nope, never. Not when there's such a plethora of brand new history. What? History on the horizon. This is my first inaugural video. Number 1, new history on the horizon. I'm taking a few liberties with this one. Some of these books are brand new, so they have just arrived on the horizon. But just because I was under the weather for a little while last week and wasn't, able to make videos, but I wanted to batch these together. Some great new books came in from some publishers. Some people reached out to me, said, hey, you showed interest on Twitter on this title. I got a review copy. It was amazing. So I'm already kind of trying to cobble together my fall and winter reading plan with some of these books. Let's hope that my sound has not dipped. Let's check it out. Okay, we are good on sound. Just had to check. Last time I made a video, I think that's one of the other reasons I just checked out for a week is because I had filmed this huge long video and a minute in the camera glitched and then the sound dropped for everybody. So that's why my last video is sitting at 200 views. I don't know. What are you going to do? New history on the horizon. That's what we're going to do. So let's start off with the first book that I'm so excited about. This is brand new. It's out from Oxford University Press. I was contacted by the publisher and the author. I think it was just Oxford University Press said, we can make this happen. This is the book I really want to snuggle in with this fall and winter. Next month is going to be kind of busy for me with work, but I am treating myself to this book, and I thought you all should know about this brand new book. Weavers, Scribes, and Kings, A New History of the Ancient Near East by Amanda H. Podani. And I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, and I hope that the sound is still working. Look at this beautiful book. All right, let me give you a little synopsis here. In this sweeping history of the ancient Near East, Amanda H. Podani takes readers on a gripping journey from the creation of the world's first cities to the conquests of Alexander the Great. The book is built around the life stories of many ancient men and women, from kings, priestesses, and merchants to brickmakers, musicians, and weavers. Their habits of daily life, beliefs, triumphs, and crises, and the changes that people faced over time are explored through their own written words and the buildings, cities, and empires in which they lived. Rather than chronicling 3,000 years of rulers and states, Weavers, Scribes, and Kings, love this is a beautiful book, instead creates a tapestry of life stories through which readers will come to know specific individuals from many walks of life and to understand their places within the broad history of events and institutions in the ancient Near East. These life stories are preserved on ancient clay tablets, which allow us to trace, for example, the career of a weaver as she advanced to become a supervisor of a workshop. How cool is this? Listen to a king trying to persuade his generals to prepare for a siege, and feel the pain of a starving young couple and their 4 young children as they suffered through a time of famine. What might seem at first glance to be a remote and inaccessible ancient culture proves to be a comprehensible world, one that bequeathed to the modern world many of our institutions and beliefs. A truly fascinating place to visit. How cool is that? I love it. I love getting into the lives of people as much as you can. That's why I've always been intrigued by the graffiti found on the walls of Pompeii, and it just comes to life. You're like, wow, these people were really like us. They had the same kind of sarcastic, sometimes gutter humor, you know what I mean? But they were just like us with those human characteristics and foibles and dreams and hopes. And this book is really going to just kind of bring it to life in a major way. And it's richly illustrated throughout. So this is going to be my treat. And if you guys are interested, I'd love to report back on this one. I will mark this one as follow up on the channel. So thank you, Oxford University Press and Amanda H. Podani. Thank you, Oxford University Press, for this review copy. I'm extremely pleased to get a chance to read Amanda's Madam Podani's new book. So thank you so much. Look at this beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. It is out right now because that is a finished copy. So, all right. Now this next book, this is coming out next month. So this is on the horizon. This is coming out from One Moment. Boomer is one. When Martine leaves, he is a little crybaby. She went to go get a haircut, but apparently his world is shattered, even though I'm here. Okay, so this next book is coming out October 4th. It is coming out from Farrar, Straus, and Giroux. My sound better be working. This next book is Waging a Good War, A Military History of the Civil Rights Movement, 1954 to 1968, by Thomas E. Ricks. Many of you will know that author. He's written so many best-selling, New York Times best-selling titles, including Fiasco. This is being put out by Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, and I was able to get a review copy. Let's see here. Right now, the tentative publication date is October 4th. Says here, in Waging a Good War, best-selling author Thomas E. Ricks offers a fresh perspective on America's greatest moral revolution, the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, and its legacy today. While the movement has become synonymous with Martin Luther King Jr.'s ethos of nonviolence, Ricks, a Pulitzer Prize-winning war reporter, draws on his deep knowledge of tactics and strategy to advance a surprising but revelatory idea. The greatest victories for Black Americans of the past century were won not by idealism alone, but by paying attention to recruiting, training, discipline, and organization, the hallmarks of any successful military campaign. An engaging storyteller, Ricks deftly narrates the movement's triumphs and defeats. He follows King and other key figures from Montgomery to Memphis, demonstrating that Gandhian nonviolence was a philosophy of active, not passive resistance, involving the bold and sustained confrontation of the movement's adversaries, both on the ground and in the court of public opinion. While bringing legends such as Fannie Lou Hamer and John Lewis into new focus, Ricks also highlights lesser-known figures who played critical roles in fashioning nonviolence into an effective tool. The activists James Lawson, James Bevel, Diane Nash, and Septima Clark, foremost among them. He also offers a new understanding of the movement's later difficulties as internal disputes and white backlash intensified. Rich with fresh interpretations of familiar events and overlooked aspects of America's civil rights struggle, Waging a Good War is an indispensable addition to the literature of racial justice and social change, and one that offers vital lessons for our own time. So this will be coming out in hardcover, October 4th. Pricing will be $30 for the hardcover. Check with your library, see if they can have that. I'm sure they will have this on order. Thomas E. Ricks is a very well-known author, Pulitzer Prize winner. So, really intrigued to have a copy of this, especially in light of the fact that I just finished reading a book for review of a book that's coming out in December. And it's about the pacifists who resisted the military draft in World War II. It kind of centers around loosely four main figures who were, used nonviolence as an aggressive form, like basically war by other means, right? So this kind of taps into that a bit. All right, so the next book, and I am behind in showing this book to you guys. I've had it for a little bit, and I apologize. It's just been a rough couple of weeks. So this is put out by Doubleday. It's out right now. It came out at the end of August, I believe. This is The Destructionists, the 25-year crack-up of the Republican Party by Dana Milbank. I'm sure many of you know Dana Milbank and his work. I knew that. I knew Dana was a man. Of course I did. Washington Post columnist, but this is going to be a hard read just because it frustrates me so much. So The Destructionists, right? Doubleday, it's out right now. What can we talk about here? In 1994, rabble-rousing Republican Congressman Newt Gingrich stood outside the U.S. Capitol to sign the quote-unquote contract with America and put bipartisanship on notice. Quarter century later, a bloodthirsty mob incited by President Donald Trump invaded the Capitol building. Washington Post political columnist Dana Milbank sees a clear line between the contract and the coup attempt. Milbank has covered Washington through 8 presidential administrations, and in his new devastating history, The Destructionists, he shows how the Republican Party has been hacking at the foundations of civil society for decades, destroying truth, decency, patriotism, national unity, and racial progress, and imperiling the world's oldest democracy. Following the career-making chicanery of party heavyweights like Gingrich, Karl Rove, Mitch McConnell, and Sarah Palin, as well as many lesser lights, Milbank recounts how the Republican Party made alliances with white supremacists and violent militia movements, hatched conspiracy theories, and undermined elections long before Donald Trump did the same as president. The Trump phenomenon, he argues, cannot be understood without its many antecedents. The Vince Foster quote-unquote murder, Ken Starr's smut, the racism of the quote-unquote birther movement, the anti-government rage of the Tea Party, the lies about the Affordable Care Act, the politicization of the Supreme Court from Bush v. Gore to Citizens United, and more. Milbank's history explains why today, though Trump has been dethroned, anti-democratic forces in the GOP still thrive, hatching gag laws, book bans, voter suppression schemes, and ingenious forms of legislation that set neighbor against neighbor in a modern-day Stasi state. Urgent and electric in its arguments, The Destructionists is a look back that points to a dark road ahead. Indeed. The state of affairs in this country is like I've never seen it before, and I'm sure many of you have the same input. I'm not saying anything new or original here. We're in deep trouble. Frankly, I feel like I'm witnessing history happening as Rome falls. It's just like the Republicans are a bunch of F-ups, and I am an independent. I lean more conservative. I think many of you could probably pick that up, but they have made me sick. But you know what? There is no but. Both parties, to me, stink to high heaven. I mean, you can't hold up the Democratic Party as some bastion of whatever. It's just, it's all about the lesser of two evils. And it's just like, I think there was a quote I read about from that book I just read about the nonviolence, the resistors to the Second World War. But there was a quote from Hannah Arendt, who said something to the effect of, when you say that you've chose the lesser of two evils, you still have to reckon with the fact that you chose evil. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at. I just throw up my hands. I put my faith in God, and just because, I'll vote, maybe. I mean, it's just at this point, it's just like, who the hell is there? Who the hell is there to vote for anymore? No one. Not a damn person. Dang person, sorry. But The Destructionists, this will enrage, but this is out right now. Moving on. Ooh, from Harvard University Press. I love my University Press books. They have such good stuff. Just, scholarly, deeply researched, not inflammatory. Just love my University Presses. This is The Triumph of Broken Promises, The End of the Cold War and the Rise of Neoliberalism by Fritz Bartel. Again, Harvard University Press. This one's out right now. I think it just came out. But I wanted to get this in this batch of New History on the Horizon #1. So what do we have here? Why did the Cold War come to a peaceful end? And why did neoliberal economics sweep across the world in the late 20th century? In this path-breaking study, Fritz Bartel argues that the answer to these questions is one and the same. The Cold War began as a competition between capitalist and communist governments to expand their social contracts as they raced to deliver their people a better life. But the economic shocks of the 1970s made promises of better living untenable on both sides of the Iron Curtain. Energy and financial markets placed immense pressure on governments to discipline their social contracts. Rather than make promises, political leaders were forced to break them. In a sweeping narrative, The Triumph of Broken Promises tells the story of how the pressure to break promises spurred the end of the Cold War. It's interesting. In the West, neoliberalism provided Western leaders like Reagan and Thatcher with the political and ideological tools to shut down industries and impose austerity and favor the interests of capital over labor. But in Eastern Europe, revolutionaries like Lech Walesa and Poland resisted any attempt at imposing market discipline. Mikhail Gorbachev tried in vain to reform the Soviet system, but the necessary changes ultimately presented too great a challenge. Faced with imposing economic discipline antithetical to communist ideals, Soviet-style governments found their legitimacy irreparably damaged. But in the West, politicians could promote austerity as an antidote to the excesses of ideological opponents, setting the stage for the rise of the neoliberal global economy. And here's our handsome young author, Fritz Bartle. All right, Texas A&M University. This will be an engaging little study here. About 350 pages. Not bad. So thank you, Harvard University Press. I'm looking forward to just adding that to my knowledge of the Cold War. I've read a lot on Cold War stuff, and it's endlessly fascinating to me, just the diplomacy and the politics and personalities involved. And now, this book is coming in November. I was able to get an advanced reader copy, and in fact, I had an extra. And I sent that over to Bill Rutenberg at the Rutenberg Library. You might have already seen this on his channel. But I love Egyptian ancient history. Boy, do I ever. And I'm very excited for this one. So I have an advanced reader copy of Egypt's Golden Couple, How Akhenaten and Nefertiti Became Gods on Earth by John Darnell and Colleen Darnell. They are a married couple. I started following her on Instagram at the suggestion of the publicist just to see what kind of stuff she wears. These wonderful outfits from like the 20s and just poses. It's really interesting. So the Darnells here, John and Colleen, are two celebrated Egyptologists, and they bring here in this book, bring to vivid life the intriguing and controversial reign of King Tut's parents, Akhenaten and Nefertiti. Akhenaten has been the subject of radically different, even contradictory biographies. The king has achieved fame as the world's first individual and the first monotheist, but others have seen him as an incestuous tyrant who nearly ruined the kingdom he ruled. But who are Akhenaten and Nefertiti, and what can we actually say about rulers who lived more than 3,000 years ago? Combining fascinating scholarship, detective suspense, and adventurous thrills, Egypt's Golden Couple is a journey through excavations, museums, hieroglyphic texts, and stunning artifacts. From clue to clue, the authors reconstruct an otherwise untold story of the magnificent reign of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. All right. And little did I know this, but on the back of this book, it says here, November 2022 marks the centennial of the discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun. Isn't that interesting? So just in time for the centennial of the opening of King Tut's tomb, we've got a book about his parents. So this will be coming out November 1st. So stay on the alert for that, folks. This is put out by St. Martin's Press. I'm going to a conference the last week of October, just down the road here in Denver, but I'll be staying at a hotel. I'll be working all week downtown. So I might take this book with me and try to have it read before the, if I have some time to read at night before I pass out from exhaustion. I'll try to read it before the pub date. But yeah, so we got that on the horizon, and looking forward to that. So wanted to share with you this book. I recently wrote a review of this book. It'll be coming out soon in Shelf Awareness. But I asked for a final copy because I thought it was very meaty and I enjoyed it. And sometimes I ask for finished copies of books that I've reviewed. Sometimes I don't, just because I've got space issues, obviously. But I've read this author's work before, and I really enjoyed his take on this. And I was able to get a final copy. I'm very, very pleased by that. So thank you to Basic Books. Look for my review of this book probably the first week of October. This is the final finished copy of To Sanctify the World, The Vital Legacy of Vatican II by George Weigel. So this will be coming out for the rest of you guys October 4th. And I've read George Weigel, The Cube in the Cathedral. I loved it. I'm trying to collect some of his other books that I haven't read yet, including, I think, in an upcoming book haul from Book Outlet, I was able to procure the one-volume biography he wrote on Pope John Paul II. So, and I think that's what he's most known for. So what do we have with this book? This is from Basic Books. Get that in there. Hello. Nice cover. 60 years after its opening, a leading Catholic intellectual explains why the teachings of the Second Vatican Council are essential to the Church's future and the world's. So Vatican II was the most important event in Catholic history since the 16th century Council of Trent reckoned with the Protestant reformations that had shattered Christendom. Called by Pope John the 23rd to address the civilizational crisis that had led to 2 world wars, the council was intended to launch a new era of Christ-centered and evangelical Catholic vitality in the modern world. But today, 60 years after its opening on October 11th, 1962, Vatican II's meaning remains sharply contested, and in some respects, its promise remains unfulfilled. And to sanctify the world, renowned Catholic scholar George Weigel brings over 30 years' experience of global Catholic affairs to this fresh and compelling analysis of the Council. In a groundbreaking examination of modern Catholic history, Weigel explains how to understand Vatican II, why it was necessary, what it taught, and why implementing its teachings was so controversial and difficult. Indeed. So this is a book I have read. And this book challenges existing understandings of this epochal event and reveals how it continues to shape the global Catholic community. Let me just read this last section because I did think it was interesting how he kind of ended this book on this note. While previous councils offered quote-unquote keys to their proper interpretation, Vatican II did not, leading to a period of confusion and lethargy in the Church. Weigel shows that Popes John Paul II and Benedict XVI, both major figures at the Council, provided these authoritative keys to understanding Vatican II in the 35 years those 2 men served as Bishop of Rome. With insightful and original analysis, Weigel argues that as the civilizational crisis that the Council addressed continues today, Vatican II's proposals for an authentic humanism remain crucial for the renewal of world culture and critical to the Church's mission to sanctify the world. So, yes, October 4th, hardcover, about $30, basic books. Do I recommend it? Because I wrote the review? Yes, I do. It was very well written. I read an advanced review copy, which is marked up, but that is another book that I've got a bunch of advanced review copies of things that I need to send off to folks if anyone wants them. But I'm glad to have the finished copy of this book coming out October 4th. All right. Oh, yes. Brand new book out from University of North Carolina Press. I was so excited to see that Jeffrey D. Wirt had a new Civil War history book out, and I love Jeffrey D. Wirt's work. I have many of his books. And University of North Carolina Press and LSU Press, they tend to just put out outstanding Civil War scholarship. And this is brand new, and it's part of their Civil War America series. I can't wait to read this because I wrote my whole undergraduate. Well, it wasn't just on this, but it's a part of the battle I was so intrigued by. But anyway, this is The Heart of Hell. The Soldier's Struggle for Spotsylvania's Bloody Angle by Mr. Jeffrey D. Wirt. The Incomparable by University of North Carolina Press. This is out right now. It's got some great blurbs from some heavy hitters in the field of Civil War historiography. Carolyn Janney, A. Wilson Green. But I wrote my paper on the Wilderness Campaign. No, it was the Overland Campaign, but and then I was very focused, but I kind of stopped after Spotsylvania. But anyway, let's read this. The struggle over the fortified Confederate position known as Spotsylvania's Mule Shoe was without parallel during the Civil War. A Union assault that began at 4:30 a.m. on May 12, 1864, sparked brutal combat that lasted nearly 24 hours. By the time Grant's forces withdrew, some 55,000 men from Union and Confederate armies had been drawn into the fury, battling in torrential rain along the fieldworks at distances often less than the length of a rifle barrel. One Union private recalled the fighting as a seething, bubbling, soaring hell of hate and murder. By the time Lee's troops established a new fortified line in the pre-dawn hours of May 13, some 17,500 officers and men from both sides had been killed, wounded, or captured when the fighting ceased. The site of the most intense clashes became forever known as the Bloody Angle. Here, renowned military historian Jeffrey D. Wirt draws on the personal narratives of Union and Confederate troops who survived the fight to offer a gripping story of Civil War combat at its most difficult. Wirt's harrowing tale reminds us that the war story, often told through its commanders and campaigns, truly belonged to the common soldier. Indeed, I think the Bloody Angle is the epitome of the most hellish nature of war. Men sticking their bayonets through the woodworks and just stabbing men on the other side, popping up every now and then to club them to death. I mean, it was just, I think this was the battle that, well, there were so many that impacted men's psychological health after the war. And there's not a lot of body of work written about PTSD from Civil War, because obviously they didn't know what the hell that was, right? I mean, we didn't even shell shock came around in World War I. But that was happening. These things were happening all throughout warfare. It has happened to warriors time immemorial, and it happened to Civil War soldiers. But events like this, that just got seared into the men who witnessed this, that's something they never forgot. I'm looking forward to reading this, as hard as it may be and how brutal it may be. But I love Jeffrey D. Wirt. He is an outstanding historian. And I just really appreciate the good work that the folks at University of North Carolina Press put out in support of just a Civil War original history. So this is out right now. We're getting down there, folks. This is from Duke University Press. I wanted to leave the shrink wrap on until I showed you guys. Because now I can shelve these books and start marking them up for, put little tabs on them, when to pull them out and start getting going on them. This is in support of a book. This is timely, actually, because I just posted a book review that has been published in Shelf Awareness of a book from Princeton University Press about Brazilian authoritarianism, past and present. And it was a really intriguing book. And, I love learning about other countries' evolution, whether it's towards or away from democracy. I'm just intrigued, how other countries form their governments, what happens to them over time. And it's just, overall, it's a story about people, right? And South American politics has always been interesting to me. And so I read that book, and I'm like, I want to know more about Brazil, because it just sounded like such an interesting, unique history. It had been a colony for 500 years before they established their independence. When was that? When did that happen? I think it was it was a long time. And so they're still, trying to come to terms with their past. And if you're interested in my review of Brazilian authoritarianism, just check out any one of my social media feeds, and I tell you how to find the review. But anyway, so this book is from Duke University Press, and they have a wonderful series of books. I think I have one other that I might have bought used to somewhere, but I asked if I could, and in fact, yes, and in fact, the author of Brazilian authoritarianism is one of the editors of this book, and this is the Brazil Reader: History, Culture, Politics. And so this is brand new, and I wanted to get the second edition revised and updated, just because I have read Lilia Moritz Schwartz wrote the Brazilian authoritarianism book. But anyway, our editors here are James Green, Victoria Langland, and Lilia Moritz Schwartz. So second edition, and I really wanted to get my hands on this because I was just fascinated from her book alone. And me, I just want to keep learning. So it says here, from the first encounters between the Portuguese and indigenous peoples in 1500 to the current political turmoil, and Brazil is in the news a lot. I mean, if you just pull up on your phone the stuff with Lula and Bolsonaro, I mean, it's crazy right now. And she talks about that in her book. But I wanted to just know even more. And this book looks like it's going to cover a lot Oh, I love it. These are a fascinating series. They've written these for, these are called, the series is called The World Readers. And, oh, see, yes, they have some of these that I need to get still. Like the Bangladesh reader, the Czech reader, the Ghana reader, the Indonesian reader, the Russia reader, the South Africa reader. That's the one I really need to get. Brazil reader. All right, so here we go. So from their first encounters, the history of Brazil is much more complex and dynamic than the usual representations of it as the home of Carnival, soccer, the Amazon, and samba would suggest. This extensively revised and expanded second edition of the best-selling Brazil Reader dives deep into the past and present of a country marked by its geographical vastness and cultural, ethnic, and environmental diversity, containing over 100 selections, many of which appear in English for the first time, and which range from sermons by Jesuit missionaries and poetry to political speeches and biographical portraits of famous public figures, intellectuals, and artists. This collection presents the lived experience of Brazilians from all social and economic classes, racial backgrounds, genders, and political perspectives over the past half millennium. Whether outlining the legacy of slavery, the roles of women in Brazilian public life, or the importance of political and social movements, the Brazil Reader provides an unparalleled look at Brazil's history, culture, and politics. And so it is. It's a reader. And here we have like a letter from a sugar mill owner. We have beautiful inlaid, inset photos, as well as color artwork in the center. Acclamation of Pedro as Emperor of Brazil. These are fantastic resources for all these different countries. But and then in the center, we've got beautiful first Mass in Brazil. I mean, look at this. Oh, God, these are wonderful. And Duke University Press, what a wonderful series to put out. And I wonder if they have more than just what's listed in the front pages. But I can't wait to dig into this, because I tell you what, reading that Brazilian authoritarianism book, that was really an eye-opener. So I just love learning about other countries. Don't you guys? You guys interested in just learning about other countries, whether you ever travel there or not? You know, the back of the book says travel Brazil history. Is I've never traveled there, but I love reading about other countries and learning about them and different cultures. And I feel like it just kind of brings people together, or at least it reminds you, hey, there's a bigger world out there than what's in your backyard. Do you know what I mean? That's the joy of history. So thank you, Duke University Press. I can talk for that wonderful book. And then speaking of this, like learning about other countries, I got a final copy. They were so kind to send this to me, Bloomsbury, of a book that I plan on reading this October, actually, because it is. Is it out now? Oh, it just came out a couple days ago. Okay, so this book, and I have I have a review copy of this book if anyone's interested. But I have the final copy, and wow, what a beautiful book, because it is like heavy, like beautiful. I didn't realize how artsy of a book this would be, but this came out September 20th. So what was that? Just a few days ago. And this is the finished copy of Giles Tremlett's Espana, A Brief History of Spain. And this is put out by Bloomsbury. So thank you, Emily Bloomsbury, who sent me this final copy. It is a beautiful, heavy book. It has, as you can tell, it's like very glossy, thick paper. Just gorgeous. It is replete, if you will, with imagery, photographs, artwork. So like here's the paging, and then you know, more artwork. A beautiful book, a beautiful brief history. There's Bolivar. There's our guy. I just wanted to show you how beautiful this is. So this is out now, hardcover, $35 from Bloomsbury. Let's see. Giles Tremlett takes us from prehistoric to modern times, exploring the mythology, religious clashes, political turmoil, and search for a national identity that have forged contemporary Spain to create an essential, accessible guide to understanding the country today. Let me lower this a little bit. Thank you. Let me just read the front. This might be easier. Spain's position on Europe's southwestern corner has exposed it to cultural, political, and actual winds blowing from all quadrants. Africa lies a mere 9 miles to the south. The Mediterranean connects it to the civilizational currents of Phoenicians, Romans, Carthaginians, and Byzantines, as well as the Arabic lands of the Near East. Bronze Age migrants from the Russian steppe were amongst the first to arrive. They would be followed by Visigoths, Arabs, Napoleonic armies, and many more invaders and immigrants. Circular winds and currents linked it to the American continent, allowing Spain to conquer and colonize much of it. As a result, Spain has developed a sort of hybrid vigor. Whenever it has tried to deny this inevitable heterogeneity, it has required superhuman effort to fashion a quote-unquote pure national identity, which has proved impossible to maintain. In Espana, Giles Tremlett argues that, in fact, that lack of a homogeneous identity is Spain's defining trait. How interesting. So, I know I've shown this book on the channel before with the advanced copy that I have, but I wanted just to show this how it turned out, this beautiful finished copy, out just a few days ago. So if you want to check that out in your library, see if they have it, that'd be fantastic. So another imprint at our university press. I'll be getting many new books from University of Nebraska Press. I was sent a media list and said, hey, which books would you like to see this year? Couldn't believe it. And this is one of them. So this book is coming out November 1st. Okay, so, but I was able to get a finished copy. I think this is right. Okay, so this is the imprint of Potomac Books. An imprint of the University of Nebraska Press, Potomac Books. This is Cold, 3 Winters at the South Pole by Wayne L. White. It's not just a very stark, beautiful cover. It's frozen eyelids or eyebrows there. And this is the final book of our first inaugural New History on the Horizon. What do we have here? Winter. Winter owns most of the year at the South Pole. No way. Starting in mid-February and ending in early November. Total darkness lasts for months. Temperatures can drop below 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and wind chill can push temperatures to minus 140 degrees. At those temperatures, a person not protected with specialized clothing and an understanding of how to wear it would be reduced to an icicle within minutes. Few people on the planet can say they know what it feels like to walk in the unworldly, frigid winter darkness at the South Pole, but Wayne L. White can, having walked several thousand miles and never missing a day outside during his stay, regardless of the conditions. As the winter site manager of the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station and Antarctica, White was responsible for the selection, training, and health and safety of the 42 and 46-person crews. Motivated by the determination and bravery of historical pioneers such as Raoul Amundsen, Robert Falcon Scott, and Ernest Shackleton, White honed his leadership skills to guide a diverse group of experienced and talented craftsmen, scientists, and artisans through 3 winters, the longest term of any winter manager. I love books like this. Despite hardships, disasters, and watching it helpless as a global pandemic unfolded far beyond their horizon, his crews prevailed, thank goodness. In Cold, White documents his time in these extreme elements and offers a unique perspective on the United States Antarctic program at the South Pole. How fun is this? Why do I love stories like this? Fun fact. In my late teens, early 20s, I tried to get a job. I wanted to work down there. I think it was the Raytheon site down there in Antarctica. I wanted to be one of those folks that kind of cycled in, did like 3 months or 6 months. I applied for a job to work on their little weekly newspaper where they just kind of go around and interview all the different folks working there, because I was a journalist. That's my skill set when I got out of the military. I guess I was like early 20s. I tried it. I think it's hard because everyone wants to do something. I think everyone wants to do something funky like that, something crazy. I've always been intrigued by forbidding cold places. So the fact that I never got down there to work at the South Pole, I'm going to have to live vicariously through Wayne L. White in Cold from Potomac Books. So thank you, University of Nebraska Press. I'm very excited for this. I will be reading it this winter. Anyway, it comes out November 1st. I would try to do a pyramid here, but, I've been throwing my rib cages out lately. My chiropractor's like, your muscles, you keep popping out your ribs, I'm like, yeah, I know. It's hauling all these books. I hope you enjoyed your first video of New History on the Horizon. As always, we will have more. If any of these books interest you, let me know. Again, I have a couple of advanced review copies that either I'm going to have to recycle them, or I don't think some places won't take advanced review copies. But if anyone out there is interested in Vatican, Brief History of Spain, let me know. I think I still have that Spain book. So, but anyway, guys, let me know what you think. More books to come, more books always arriving here at the History Shelf. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.